What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today we have some awesome information for you guys. But before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos first. Now let's go ahead and jump right into the news here, because Metroid Dread, more good news facing this franchise, and also a bump up in a very popular video that I did a couple weeks ago, or about a week ago or so. So we're going to talk about that. So we have another record in terms of sales for Metroid Dread. Shout outs to my boy Pierre485 over there on Twitter. Make sure you go follow him. He's a really good at doing the numbers and sales and breakdowns. He's overseas. I think he's French or something like that. So yeah, make sure you check that dude out. But yeah, he actually posted up some Metroid Dread sales numbers from France. So he stated that Metroid Dread sold 25,000 units at retail. Sorry, not France, Spain in the first 3 days. So Spain in the first 3 days, 25,000 units. It's the third biggest launch on Switch this year, behind Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury at 53,000 and The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD at 40,000. Now quadruple, check this out guys, quadruple. 4 times the launch of Metroid Samus Returns, already passing it in lifetime sales. Think about that just for a second, guys. Lifetime sales of Metroid Samus Returns on the Nintendo 3DS. Metroid Dread already passed it up. 25,000 units. Combine that with what we saw in the UK in terms of the sales, and also in Japan. Fastest selling pretty much in every single region that it's been released so far. We're just waiting on the US and some of the other countries over there, but it's very good to see Metroid Dread doing extremely well in multiple parts of the world, and doing a lot better than the previous release, and doing a lot better than a lot of the previous Metroid games. So that's very good. Now the second bit of great news for Metroid Dread is that the game actually got bumped up a point on Metacritic. So the game was sitting at an 88. So it started out at a 90, then it went down to an 88, and then it pretty much sat at an 88 for quite some time. But I just checked recently, because I actually did a review for Metroid Dread, and I wanted to just see exactly where it was at when I was making my Twitter post, and I actually saw that it was at an 89 at this point. So that is good news for Metroid Dread, because that actually puts it above a couple of the other games that came out this year that are in contention for Game of the Year. So games like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, also games like Tales of Arise. I think those all have 88 or 87 or so, so that puts it above there. Now, I'm not saying that the reviewer Metacritic score is going to equal a nomination or a Game of the Year winner or anything like that, because it doesn't always. Obviously, we saw what happened, the debacle in 2019 with Fire Emblem Three Houses and Astral Chain pretty much scoring higher than the majority of games that were nominated for Game of the Year, and even like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate being the highest rated game out of the lot that was nominated in 2019 and still did not win. So that does not mean that it's going to, but it does make its prospects even better, because right now at this point, heading into the last few months of the year, the last couple months of the year, there isn't a lot of games left, and a lot of the stuff that is coming out is either remakes, or it's like the same kind of franchises like the Battlefield or like the Call of Duty, stuff like that, right? So I think at this point, Metroid Dread has a very good chance with this 89 of winning Game of the Year. It has the narrative, it has the gameplay, it has just basically the allure of the franchise, you know. So it's not quite up to that Mario and Zelda that might win a Game of the Year from like the Game Awards or from a lot of these other publications, but it's still a game, or at least a character that everybody knows about when it comes to Samus. So I'm down for this, and I cannot wait to see exactly how far Metroid Dread goes in the various different publications, not just the Keighley Awards, but lots of other places as well, because this was a highly reviewed game. There was nearly 100 reviews for Metroid Dread, so it's definitely going to be on a lot of people's ballots for Game of the Year. So what are your thoughts on this when it comes to Metroid Dread, the news coming out? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here, guys, we have some Kingdom Hearts news. So recently, we did know that there is going to be some cloud versions of the Kingdom Hearts games. So all the different Kingdom Hearts games that came out on the PlayStation and Xbox, also PC and everything like that, those are all coming to Nintendo Switch, but it's going to be the cloud version of the games, including Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, I originally thought that it was just going to be Kingdom Hearts 3 that was cloud, and the rest of the games are actually going to be native on the platform running, but that is not the case. Now, the reason reason why people don't like cloud games is because cloud, it's like you have to have the internet connection and sometimes like a buffer. I mean, it's just not ideal for people. People want to play it on the native hardware. They want to actually own the games. So when it comes to this is obviously not something that people like. And if you look at it, Square Enix, this is the same company that released a lot of great ports. So Final Fantasy X/10-2. You also have stuff like Final Fantasy Maxima. You have like great games that are native ports on the Nintendo Switch. So people are wondering what's going on here. Now, recently, the director of the series had this to say in an interview with Nintendo Life, quote, Mr. Ichiro Hazama, he said, for some time, our director Tetsuya Nomura had expressed his desire to deliver Kingdom Hearts series to Nintendo Switch players, him having seen and heard the demand, and so a great deal of consideration went into this internally. Bringing these titles to Nintendo Switch proved to be quite difficult for various reasons, including the storage capacity of the hardware. But we're excited that we're able to make it happen for the first time ever by utilizing the cloud service. So that's unfortunate there. Now, Nintendo Life did push back a little bit on this one here. We understand it would have been near impossible to get the entire series running smoothly on Switch, but it is possible that Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 remix could ever be reworked to run natively on the Switch later down the road, or is it just sort of a stopgap? So then here's what he had to say. At this moment in time, the production of a native version is undecided. We believe that the cloud version is currently the best way to deliver Kingdom Hearts series to Nintendo Switch players, but we are always excited to hear feedback from our fans and want to thank them for all their support. So that kind of sounds like, you know what, it's probably not going to happen, but I mean, you never know. We're never going to close the door on something. I know they said storage capacity was an issue as well. Like, I understand that it's a lot of data for these games, but I think that it's also probably they didn't want to pay for it. I think that's just my own personal opinion, that maybe, yeah, that's storage, but also paying for that. You'd have to pay for that 32 gigabyte card, because if you remember Final Fantasy X/10-2, that was actually 32 gigabyte card in Asia, but not in the US. And you actually had to have a download code for one of them. So I get that Final Fantasy is a bigger franchise. It's probably going to sell better than a Kingdom Hearts, but I think that they're making a little bit of a mistake. And I think that they're underestimating how well this could do if it was a native port. So I'm not a developer. There's probably some other issues that they were having to capacity, stuff like that, right? Actually getting the port team to do the job right. Like, don't get me wrong, I get that, especially with Kingdom Hearts 3, for example. But at the same time, I mean, if they did Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 remix, if that was actually native on the Switch with Kingdom Hearts 3 being the cloud version, I think that would have been a lot more acceptable for a lot of fans out there. But hey, it is what it is on this point. They didn't shut the door completely, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be likely anytime soon, at least. But we'll see how this cloud version performs. But I already know good and well for many people, this cloud version won't be good enough because of their internet situation that they do have. So what are your thoughts on this when it comes to Kingdom Hearts and what the developers had to say here? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the final topic here, guys, we have some brand new information on the Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy, the Definitive Edition. So this is what Rockstar has officially said on their site, which wasn't working for quite some time, so I didn't report on it. But now that I've caught up a little bit, I did want to talk about this because I find it very interesting, because they haven't showed much of this game, but I have a reason for that, or at least I have a reason that I think for that. Now, these games will be updated for a new generation, now with across-the-board enhancements, including brilliant new lighting and environment upgrades, high-res textures, increased draw distance, and GTA 5 controls and targeting. So there you go on that one. That is pretty much it. Some people have been wondering, like, okay, well, what's going on with the game? Why haven't they showed us anything here? What's going on? Why hasn't there been any gameplay? So my thought process on this is that they're probably waiting to get a solid release date in terms of when they're going to go, because, you know, they probably don't know exactly when the release date is going to be, or at least there's a target. And what they probably want to do is have a release date, have a trailer that completely shows what's going on with the game, and then also have the pre-order links ready. Have all that ready, drop it on that day, drop it close to when it's going to release to build the hype and anticipation, and then get a lot of pre-orders. Because if you just release stuff now and then you slow burn it till it's ready to go, you might lose sales based off of that. However, if you hype everybody up and it comes out very shortly after, and you know exactly when it's coming, you know the pre-orders are live, everything, then you're going to have a better chance of selling more copies. We see this all the time with a lot of games, but since they're ports and people have already played them, there's no need to really kind of like show it at this point if it's not ready to be shown, or if you want to wait and build that hype in a short hype cycle for marketing purposes. So that's kind of my opinion on that. And I'm not a huge Grand Theft Auto guy. I'm not someone who buys Grand Theft Auto each time. However, with this trilogy here, I'll see what they're going to do with the price. I'll see exactly what the upgrades are. I do like San Andreas, but I'm not a huge fan of Grand Theft Auto 3 or Grand Theft Auto Vice City. But one thing that has me intrigued here is updated with the controls. That's like the good thing here. Like the controls in GTA 5 are a lot better, especially GTA 3. So if they actually improve the controls quite a bit more, which they're saying that they're going to do, I think that this is going to make these games way better than what they were even when they came out, because there was games that controlled a lot better even back in the early to mid 2000s. So I think that will be a huge upgrade along with everything else here. But what are your thoughts on Grand Theft Auto, the trilogy, the definitive edition that's once again coming to Nintendo Switch? And no, it's not a cloud version, guys. Don't worry, it's not a cloud version, because if it was, they would have already stated that it was on the official Nintendo account when they made a tweet about it, like they do for all games that are cloud. They tell you instantly, they don't wait to do that. What do you think about Metroid Dread as well, and the whole Kingdom Hearts situation? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click the notification bell, and we'll see you for the next video. Peace.